Promotional.
Welcome to Legends of Our Time on GBC News and Ghana Television. On Legends of Our Time, we bring you exclusive interviews with the legend. My name is Gifty Eje, and today we have one key interesting personality we'll be talking with in a jiffy. A brief background. Our guest is an academic. He has taught in many universities around the world and also the University of Ghana. He's now lecturing in Austria and is currently the chair of African Languages and Literatures at the University of Vienna, Austria, making him the first person of color to occupy this top academic position. Our guest has done pioneering research in many disciplines, including African linguistics, Afriphone literature, diaspora studies, digital humanities, among others. He is the editor of several journals and book series, including the Journal of West African Languages, Advances in Language and Literary Studies, Vienna African Languages and Literatures, among others. My guest for today is Professor Adams Bodomo. He is a linguistics expert. Hi, Prof. I hope I've got the name correct.
You got the name correct. Excellent. You did very well, Gifty. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, your area is linguistics.
Yes, please.
And that's about language.
It's about languages.
So, how many languages do you speak?
Okay. Linguistics is not about you are speaking many languages. I mean, I don't have to be a multilingual to be a linguist. Okay. In fact, one of our best linguists is called Noam Chomsky. I don't think he speaks more than 2 languages. Okay. So, but to answer your question, yes, I love languages. And I speak many languages. I speak my mother tongue, Dagare. I speak some Chui. I speak some Swahili. I love Swahili because I've learned it at school. And then I speak some European languages and even Chinese.
What influenced your decision to have a career in linguistics?
I grew up in a highly monolingual environment, village. I grew up in a village in the Upper West region of Ghana. When I was growing up, it was mostly Dagare, but Dagare speaking. But as I traveled out, you know, as I went to boarding house, and I began to hear languages from different parts of Ghana, and I was excited. Okay. You know, it was interesting to immerse myself in this multilingual environment that any boarding school in Ghana would give you, right? So that's where my interest began. And so I started wondering, okay, how do these people say this like this? You know, what is it? I don't know. And language is really, if you study language, its structure, you will see that it's a wonderful creation of our brains, of the human brain.
For some time now, you lectured in Asia, Hong Kong, China, and what influenced, going to that part of the world to teach our local languages?
Okay. As you know, one opportunity leads to the other and so on. I never had any idea that I would one day be teaching at the University of Hong Kong, which is one of Asia's best universities. But I mean, after completing my PhD, I saw an advert, and I said, okay, what is this? So I applied for it, and there, I mean, one thing led to the other, and I found myself in this completely different environment. But actually not so different, because Hong Kong is part of this whole Commonwealth system. You know, Hong Kong was colonized by Britain. So when I landed at the University of Hong Kong, I could see elements of the structure, like in the University of Ghana.
Okay.
You have junior common room, senior common room, and all these structures. So within the school itself, I was at home. But outside of the university, I began to witness or to experience a wonderful, a completely different culture, you know, from my Ghanaian and from my African culture.
So how was the experience like, you know, teaching students coming from different cultural backgrounds how to speak the African languages?
No, it wasn't.
How was that?
It wasn't necessarily only teaching them proficiency. No, I didn't teach them as I said, linguistics is not about proficiency alone. You know, when in a linguistics class or in a, and by the way, it's not only linguistics, it's also African studies. I was teaching them about Africa, and not beyond just language. But to address the issue of proficiency, when you teach people linguistics, you're teaching them about, you know, the science of language, about how language originates, about, you know, how a child learns language. How is it that a young, brain just absorbs languages and senses all the way. You're talking about psycholinguistics. You're talking about cognitive science. You're also talking about the way that language functions in society. You're talking about sociolinguistics. You're talking about the structure itself of language. You're talking about morphology, phonology, syntax. You're talking about semantics. You know, when you do so, it's a completely different science from just teaching somebody how to say we want to say. It's different from saying that. It is about more about understanding the nature of language than just about proficiency. But I'm not dismissing proficiency. It's a very good. In my classes, in my program, I was director of African Studies at the University of Vienna, and also when I came, I was head of African Studies. I always made sure that young people learned proficiency in African. They learned how to speak and to read and write African languages.
Which languages?
Many. I've supervised the teaching of Swahili, of Hausa, of Chui, of Dagari, my own language, and of many other languages, of Bambara language. So yeah, I've covered a lot of things, of many, Zulu, Eritrea. So a lot of these languages, proficiency is an important part of, you know, understanding African culture, proficiency in the languages of Africa. But to come back to your question of, I teach more than just how to speak, and also towards the procedure, how to understand language. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So currently you are with the Vienna University in Austria,
right?
And you are occupying a very enviable position as the chair of the linguistics department, kind of.
Yeah.
First of all, how did you land that job?
That's a good question. How did you land that job? Okay, let's get back to Hong Kong. Okay. Yeah, at the University of Hong Kong, after working there for, and by the way, before Hong Kong, I was also in the United States. Oh, okay. I was at Stanford University. So when I got to the University of Hong Kong, you know, we started, my colleagues and I gathered a lot of people of like-mindedness, and then we started an African Studies program. There was no African Studies program. Okay. So, I mean, to start a new program in a university is a very difficult thing.
Why is
you have to convince people.
Okay.
You have to convince people of like-minded. People ask you questions, what is it? How can we convince? How viable is our institution? You stand before a committee. Okay. And you ask, so I was able to convince my superiors in Hong Kong University that it was important to start an African Studies program. And whoa,
they bought into the idea.
And so we started. The program is still viable. It's still there. You know, I'm very happy. I'm very proud of that legacy. Okay. So we started it, and it was functional. It was viable. It's still there. And then one day, you know,
there's a story there.
Actually, one day, you know, actually I was on sabbatical leave at Stanford University, the Humanities Center at Stanford University. Then one day, I opened my computer and I saw this thing about, hey, you know, what's the, you know, there's this position. Would you be interested?
Just you know, like that.
Yeah, just like that. And then there's this you know, in our world today, you have to be very careful with what is called 419. You know, you get these mails, and then they write all kinds of things, and so I first of all deleted it. I dismissed it, you know, gifty. I dismissed, and then later on it came again. Then I said, okay, let me check to see who is doing this. And so I looked into, you know, the email person, and went all. It led me to the University of Vienna.
Okay.
And it also led me to the Department of Linguistics of the University. So I looked at the staff members, and I saw a former colleague of mine who is now a professor there, who were students together in Norway, where I studied. And so I asked that person that, hello, what is it all about? And she said, yes, of course, it's true, Adams. You know, this is an authentic thing, and you should apply if you want. They want people like you. So I said, okay, put in something. And I was going out my own way and doing my things, and then one thing led to the other. They said, hey, yeah, come for an interview, come for a job talk, something. And I found myself in Vienna. I'd never been to Austria. You know, Vienna is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Yeah, besides Accra. So that's how I went to Vienna.
So when you got the job, what kind of portfolio did they give you?
The job was a top position as a chair professor, you know, a chair professor of African studies, you know, specializing in African linguistics and literature. So that was the remit. That was my remit.
And you were the very first black person.
I was the very first black person. Yeah. It's surprising that in African studies program around the world, we don't have many black people. It bothers me. Yeah, Gifty. Why? Because it's all part of the, you know, when people set up African studies programs around the world, they want to put their own people there. I ever complained about it, and they said, well, you know, we want to see how we interpret Africans for our people. This is the point.
Yes.
This is the rationale for people starting African studies programs.
And that's not too accurate.
But my philosophy is that no, that's not the case. If you want to see how people interpret, how your experts interpret Africa, why don't you take somebody like me, somebody like Gifty, somebody like all of us here? Why don't you take people who know Africa, you know, to interpret your people? If I were to be starting a program in European studies here, would I exclude Europeans?
No.
So of course I would not exclude Europeans. I mean, of course in academia, anybody can specialize in a field and be the top. So I'm not saying that people, non-Africans shouldn't study. I mean, shouldn't study African level. Of course, they are experts. But ideally, you should listen to me. You should listen to Gifty. You should listen to, you know, you should listen to Kweku. You should listen to Prof. You should listen to Ademola. You should listen to, you know, people who are African, who have learned. So that, I mean, of course, I'm not quarreling about this, but yeah, that's how I started building a program. And you know.
So what kind of assignments or targets did they give you as the chair of that department when you got the job?
Yeah, I mean, any person who's the chair of a department, you have to bring the department up. You have to, you know, do things that you have to challenge. There are challenges. There are visions to follow. There are visions to. I did that, and you know, I think we place very well in the world in terms of rankings. Yeah, we place very well. So. Of course, not only me, but my colleagues and I. You always need somebody, a leader. You know, you can't do everything. So you bring your colleagues along and you think about things. You model program. You have visions and mission statements. You know, the experience is just very interesting. Yeah.
So what would you describe as some of your achievements in your department as the chair, so far as in the study of linguistics and African studies is concerned?
Yeah. Maybe I should widen this from just achievement within the department. I mean, even though I'm located in a small department, I'm also located as a member of the university and as a member of, you know, of the academic community, right? So I would describe my achievement as, you know, inspiring young scholars. You know, I inspire young scholars. For me, it's not just about, when you are a chair professor, it's not just about you, right? It's about how you inspire young scholars. Postdocs, I have had postdocs. I've inspired them. I have helped them go from publish one thing or two. I've inspired them get experiences. I've inspired graduate students. You have to be a mentor if you are in an academic position. It's not, I mean, of course, the reason why Hong Kong University or University of Vienna or University of Ghana takes somebody is not, I mean, in that kind of position, is not, they're no longer doubting your ability to produce, but they now want you to lift others up. So if you want to ask me what are some of your achievements, I think one of my greatest achievements is to inspire scholars and lift them up and show them the way to go. And then, of course, I'm also very excited to have brought in a lot of African content in my courses. You know, I've brought in a lot of African content. I've published, I've done a lot of publication in books myself.
We'll come there.
We'll come there.
We'll look at your publication.
And that kind of thing. I have restructured things. In fact, I also brought in a lot of postdocs. I mean, both European and African. A colleague of mine joked with me that you are Adams, you are on a program to darkening our program.
That's good.
That's a great joke. Yeah.
So currently you are in Ghana.
I'm in Ghana. Yeah. You came in my home, at home. Home sweet home. Yeah.
You came purposely for the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences inaugural lecture, and you were even the speaker for that program. Let's look at the topic in which you spoke about during that program.
Okay.
It was mainly on linguistics, pan-Africanism as the global future. Briefly, tell us what you wanted to get across to us.
Okay. Thanks for this. First of all, let me thank the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences for electing me into their midst. That's a very prestigious academy. Ghanaians are very proud of this. I heard that it's one of the first academies started out by Nkrumah. Very visionary. So this academy tries to bring things together and talk to the public about cutting-edge research and other things. And I'm happy to be part of it. And as part of being in the academy, you have to give what is called an inaugural lecture. And so I was asked to give an inaugural lecture on the 10th of February, and I came down. That's one of the reasons why I came down. But also to see my family, to talk with people, and So I gave a talk on linguistic pan-Africanism, as you said. And linguistic pan-Africanism, in my talk, I wanted to see how we can look at the important notion of pan-Africanism, which is a crucial notion for us Africans. And for people who have been suppressed and exploited for so long, the only other alternative for us, there's no other alternative than uniting, right? So pan-Africanism is about unity. It's about pulling our resources together. I mean, I don't know any African who would not like pan-Africanism. But so I, as a linguist and as a literary scholar, by the way, I'm not just only a linguist, I'm also a literary scholar. Yeah, as a linguist, I wanted to show how linguistics can contribute to this important notion of pan-Africanism. So I invented, literally, the notion of linguistic pan-Africanism. And in this, I used my inaugural lecture to draw attention to the importance of African languages. And I produced a theory, a theoretical model for how we should manage our many African languages. And there are two important things I mentioned I can talk about. The first is that every African child must be encouraged to be proficient, talk about proficiency, to learn to read and write their mother tongue, their language of identity. One can have many mother tongues, but you can at least master one of them. So that's the idea, that's the base. So the base is that don't let our languages die. Any educational system, every educational system anywhere in Africa must ensure that however many the languages are, that every child gets the opportunity to be able to be proficient, to read and write them. And that's the first thing. The other thing I was gunning for was that I wanted to say that as a continent, if you want to create markets, if you want to create the after African continental trade, it's something for creating bigger markets. We cannot continue to live in our smaller communities and think of trading together. Let's have a unified African language. And I was bold enough to propose that we have what is called Afrihili. Afrihili would be a unified African language based on Swahili, with a lot of vocabulary input from many other African languages. So, for example, if there's no word for kente in Swahili, in Afrihili there's now a word for kente, which is defined in that language as that. if there's no word for a lot of fishing vocabulary from ever and other kinds. So let us bring in vocabulary, important vocabulary from most of our language, and create a language called Afrihili, based on Swahili, with the same grammar as Swahili, but with the expanded vocabulary input. I mean, it's really a beautiful idea. It's like that one day, 20 years from now, all Africans, irrespective of what language they speak, whether they speak Twi or Dagari or Ewe or Yoruba or Zulu, we can all speak the same language. Isn't it a beautiful idea?
It is.
Isn't it? I mean, anyway, I know people.
It is. I understand you. From where you sit.
But right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From all that you've said.
Yeah.
I mean, how important is it for us to speak our mother tongue when we even want to improve development in our individual countries? Why should we, invest in our mother tongues or languages? Oh,
Gifty, what your question suggests is that understanding your mother tongue is anathema to development. Okay. But this is not true. It is the best people who have used their mother tongues. I've worked in China.
Okay.
And I mean, the Chinese use Chinese, and they're developing. The Europeans use European language. So, in fact, I consider mother tongue as a resource for better thinking.
Okay.
I consider mother tongue as a resource. If you teach a child in their mother tongue, in fact, most educationists believe this, that if you teach a child in their mother tongue, they'll grasp that idea very well.
Okay.
Yeah, much better than if you made them struggle in some foreign language that they couldn't even know. I mean, how do you teach somebody about photosynthesis if they struggle in a language they don't even know? So teach the child photosynthesis in Akan, in Dagari, in Ewe, in Ghana. Recently, during the Beijing Olympics, the Winter Olympics, the Chinese were able to engineer the falling of snow. Snow wasn't falling naturally. They were able to engineer the falling of snow to do their Olympics. This is a wonderful idea. It was done in Chinese. They learned how to do this wonderful thing in Chinese. So the point I want to make is that learning how to speak and read and write our mother tongue is a wonderful idea to pushing ahead our mother tongue education is a wonderful thing. Yeah. In fact, I'll be giving another talk, a panel discussion on the 19th about mother tongue education. Mother tongue education is a wonderful thing, and the UNESCO is supporting mother tongue education. In fact, this is the year of mother tongue language, in the UNESCO year of mother tongue language. If we were to use our mother tongue, we will even develop much better. And, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Recently, this issue came up. People think we should adopt one of our local languages.
Yeah.
Like if you go to China, they're speaking a common language.
Yeah.
Other places, but we have a situation where we have a number of languages.
Yeah.
And if we want to use the local languages to develop, obviously we need to get one. So from where you sit, what kind of solution will you give to us? I mean, concerning our peculiar situation.
Okay, well, this is a big question. Even when I was an undergraduate student, this question was already there. In fact, I submitted an essay to the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. I didn't even know that I wanted to be a member of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. Okay. And in that essay, it was a very funny thing I did. I wrote an essay in which I insisted on the mother tongues. I said that every Ghanaian child should be given the opportunity. What I'm saying now, I also said it many years ago, so I haven't changed that much. but then I said something. I said, okay, but at some point, we should also have something called Ghana Kasa, or Ghana Kasa. Okay. The same thing. So maybe bring together our vocabularies use some languages, some of our few languages and put together. But, the good thing about Ghana is that we have never had a language imposed on us. One of the most important things about language planning is that there are sensitivities involved. Okay. A government should not impose a language on people. What has happened in Ghana is, which is beautiful, is that during the Achampong era, maybe you're too young to understand, during the Achampong in the 1970s, there was a military ruler called General Ike Achampong. He came to power. I mean, I don't sanction military rule, but he came to power. And he did something very good. He said, every Ghanaian, in addition to their own language, should learn another Ghanaian language. Okay. And they kind of popularized it, the idea. And today, we have produced a number of lingua franca around the country. You know, there are a number of lingua franca. There's Akan, there's Ewe, there's Dabani, there's all this. But at the same time, too, we are beginning to see a lingua franca from below, from the base, such that everybody seems to be able to speak Akan without any government imposition. So I'm beginning to see, I'm not saying that the government should now get up and say, impose Akan on. No, leave it, let it simmer. When you cook food, you let it simmer. Let's see 25 years from now. Let the people themselves, let Ghanaian people develop. In Accra for now, if you go to Makola Market, Akan is lingua franca, right? Yeah. This was not imposed by any government. It is happening. The people are doing this themselves. That's my solution.
So how can we use what's happening now to bring about development or intensify our developmental drive?
As we come together, as we create, as we begin to speak to each other, as we have radio stations like GBC, as we talk together, you cannot do development without development communication. So in one of my papers, I've talked about the need for development communication, understanding various issues. Development is not just only about growing GDPs. It's not just about growing, you know, it's not about statistics. That's not that. Development is also about socio-cultural development, improvement. So as a people, if we could understand, have cohesion, understand each other, you know, talk to each other more, we will generate ideas. For example, you cannot have only the elites of Ghana propounding ideas about development and expect that we will develop. It is only when you involve the masses of Ghana. So mass communication, you know, it's only when you involve the masses of Ghana that you can begin to get better and better ideas about development. What language would you use that for? A common language. Okay. Right, so that's my answer.
Okay, Prof, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Legends of Our Time on GBC News and Ghana Television. My name is Gifty AJ, and my guest for today is Professor Adams Bodomo. Okay, Prof, so let's continue with our conversation. Okay. Before we close that chapter on the language and the development, let me give you the opportunity to quickly make a comment on our current educational system in Ghana.
Well, there are a lot of teething problems. Okay. And the comment I would like to make is that we should emphasize what I'm saying about language education. I'm sometimes accused of propounding ideas that may bring a lot of languages into the system. But, you know, Africans or Ghanaians and Africans already speak many languages. You know, most of us here speak more than 2 languages, right? So 3 or 4 languages. So what I'm saying, I don't think I'm asking too much if I say that multilingual situation should reflect in our educational system. Okay. So my advice is that we should emphasize mother tongue education. We should emphasize the educational language education, like that children come out of the school system being trilingual, being at least trilingual, so that they can read and write, not just only concentrate on some foreign language. You know, studying foreign language is not a bad thing, but there's no, besides Africa, I don't know of any other country that emphasizes the study of foreign language over their own language. Europeans study foreign language, but that's after they've studied their own languages. You know, so Africans should study foreign language. That's fine. I myself have read French, and I can speak, you know, Norwegian, because I have studied in Norway. I can speak Chinese because I worked a little bit of Chinese because I've worked in China. But that's not the point. The point is to emphasize the study of Ghana's own languages. right? So that's my comment on this on the JSS system.
Let's look at Prof. Bodomo as a publisher or a researcher. You have about 14 books to your credit, and of course many articles, uncountable.
Now 20 books.
20. You see. Okay.
The last few of them came out, and I didn't update my my CV. Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So how do you combine, what you do at the university and publication on the side?
Well, I mean, it's part of the job description. It's not like I'll finish teaching and then go and publish.
Okay.
A publication is part of a professor's job description. In fact, if you are a very good teacher and you're a bad researcher, you won't get promoted.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're an okay teacher and you're an excellent researcher, you will get promoted.
Okay.
That's what I say. Yeah. So publishing is part of my job description, any professor's job description.
Okay.
So that's why. So your question is as if you then do something and do something as part time. No, it's part of it. So you are asked when you arrive at a job assistant, you make a beginner as assistant professor or associate, to be promoted to associate, and they promoted to full professor, and they promoted to chair professor.
Okay.
You have to show a very substantial degree of competency in producing new knowledge.
Okay.
Publication is about producing new knowledge. So yes, so I want to say that publishing you see is part of my job description. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And you've published extensively on a number of topics, and also languages, including Dagari, as you talked about.
Yeah, right.
Let's look at what you've done on that aspect of language, Dagari, and how is it contributing to the study or knowledge when it comes to Dagari, particularly in Ghana.
Okay. As I said, I grew up in a small village in northwestern Ghana where only Dagari was spoken. So I'm a native speaker of Dagari. And so when I came to the University of Ghana, I didn't study Dagari that much in school, because in my time you couldn't study your mother tongue in school. That's an improvement now, actually, to be frank. So, but when I arrived at the University of Ghana, I was very lucky to enter into a linguistics program in which legends of our time, like Professor Dolphine, legends of our time, like Professor Dati, legends of our time, like Professor Dakubu, were there, Buaidi, and so many other people. So, and I entered this program, and this program welcomed me because there were very few people who could analyze Dagari. Okay. So I was so excited, and unlike my other students, my other students will go into the library and see the structure of Ewe, a grammar of Akan. I go to the library and don't see anything about Dagari.
Dagari, oh, okay.
So I said, I want to write.
So you were the first?
I was the first.
Okay.
So I produced. So I wrote the first grammar of my language at Stanford University, which is called the structure of Dagari. And it wasn't just about writing the first grammar. It was about producing knowledge and encouraging everybody, people in that area, to take pride in their language. And recently, we've produced the first comprehensive dictionary of Dagari, more than 500 pages, online, free for everybody to download, and also hard copy. So, if you to answer your question, I was very proud I was very proud of my language. I mean, that's wow. I can help with this, and I did help with that. But not only Dagari, but also the languages associated with it. Okay. Like Dagbani, like Gruni, like Kusa. So I've taught students. I've mentored students. I've supervised some of the best. So for example, one of the best PhDs I've supervised, two of them actually, are professors themselves in Legon and University College of Education, Winneba. So I'm not just concentrating on only Dagari, but also on the group of languages in northern Ghana. In fact, actually, my very first PhD was somebody who was writing on Akan. He's now a professor in tech at the University of Science and Technology, Charles Mafu. So it's not just about only my language. It's about developing Ghana's languages. It's about developing African languages. And so that's to answer your question. So that's how Dagari comes in. And now there's a lot of enthusiasm for Dagari. Last September when I came back to Ghana, I was asked to come and talk to the Dagari Teachers Association they're a vibrant group of people. In Winneba now, there are vibrant programs in not just only Dagare, but in Gonja, in Kusal, in Dabane, in Eve, in Akan. In fact, the University College of Education in Winneba has a center of excellence. Can be seen as a center of excellence for the state of African Ghanaian languages. Yeah.
Let's look at Swahili,
Yeah.
what's been doing for that language as well.
Okay. Swahili, I haven't done much research on Swahili. I studied Swahili as an undergrad here,
Okay.
but my focus was on Ghanaian languages, naturally. But in terms of social linguistics, in terms of promoting, in terms of development, in terms of language policy, I've always emphasized Swahili because the Swahili language is one of the most widespread languages in Africa. You know, it began somewhere in the islands of Tanzania and sometimes in Kenya, but it's become widespread. And I want to say something. We should be very proud of the University of Ghana. The University of Ghana, I think I heard that under the inspiration of Nkrumah, was one of the first universities to start the study of Swahili.
Okay.
Outside, anywhere outside East Africa, in Ghana. So I was able to study Swahili in Ghana here. So to answer your question about what have I done with Swahili, I have promoted the development of Swahili, and I have taught students. I have supervised students who, one of my master's students now is actually writing topics on Swahili. So I have engineered and helped prop up Swahili but I haven't published myself on the Swahili, on the grammar or something of Swahili.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Prof, quickly, we've spoken extensively about your career.
Yeah.
Take us through your early days. You've mentioned that you come from northern Ghana.
Yeah, right.
Which community and what kind of family did you grow in?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you're taking me back to my roots.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I grew up in Jirapa municipality. Jirapa is one of the municipalities in Upper West region of Ghana, of West Ghana. And in a village called Ulkori, so Ulo Kori. So, and in this village and its surroundings, they're farmers, mostly farmers. I mean, subsistence farmers, not large scale farmers. Okay. And so, that was the environment in which I grew up, understanding. I mean, my father was steeped in his culture, my mother as well, from another village, married to her. And so I grew up in this environment, understanding. I even began, I was a part-time cattle herdsman.
Oh, okay.
I would go to school and come back and, and herd my family's cattle. You know, I would farm as well. So I am a product of that system, of that environment. Okay. And so at 6, my grandfather, he said that he stood somewhere and heard some people saying that in future, if there's anybody who doesn't have an educated person, somebody who could read and write in the family, that family is in trouble. Okay. So he came back home and said, Bolacher, go to school. The next day you're going to school. Bolacher is my name. Your name. Yeah.
So you were the first to go to school
in my family. In my family.
Okay.
I was the first. In fact,
how many children?
My father had 7 children. Okay. So 3 boys and 4 girls. Okay. But there were also other people in the family. My brother's children and so on and so forth. I mean, so my father's brother's children, of course. Not only just in our generation. In that generation, there were many people. But if you ask about me, about my father and my mother, we were 7. Okay. Yeah. So we went, and I went to school, and then in the next village, Ulu, there was no school in my village. I had to walk several miles to my village every morning, and then I went to a secondary school called Nandam Secondary School. Nandam is another municipality in northwestern Ghana. Okay. So I went to that school, and then I came to University of Ghana. Okay. So my childhood was around that. And if you want to ask me about, I'm a product of that system of subsistence farmers, of cattle herders, of agrarian economy, not of commercial economy, commercial farming and so on and so forth. Yeah. Yeah.
So when the idea dropped that you have to go to school, yes, you willingly went to school, or whether they were punished by you?
Well,
share those stories with us.
Well, I mean, those days as a child you couldn't decide. Okay. You had to be doing things. Okay. But I had an interesting grandmother. My grandmother always reminded me that what those people are doing, you know, there. But what you need to know what is happening here, you know, at home. And so sometimes you even insult me, but you know, you're being. It's because you're going there that you don't even know about our system. She used to joke with me, you know, in our culture, grandmothers and grandsons joke, right? So she would always bring me back to my roots and say that, do this. I mean, you don't think that they're teaching you better than what we have here. So there was that conflict.
The balance.
There was that conflict and balance, so to speak. So, but it worked out. I mean, I loved school, actually. When I entered, I never went back. I just loved going to school every time. Even
so what kind of student were you? The very sharp, average, or struggling?
I don't know. But anyway, I was an avid reader. Oh. I'm not going to tell you whether I'm shy or something, but I was an avid reader. I just like to read. I like to read, and I liked mathematics and English and everything. But I didn't like history that much.
Okay.
Not because it was, but I didn't see myself in the history I was studying.
Was it because of the method in which the subject was taught, or personally
the content gifting?
Okay.
I didn't see myself in the history that I was reading. You know, it was always a history of conquest. It was always a history of slave trade. It was always a history of. I mean, I didn't see myself. Yeah, I didn't see myself in it. Okay. So I'm not saying that history is not good.
Yeah.
So I'm not a historian, but I would like African historians to write history that students can see themselves in. That's when they would like history.
Which areas, Prof?
All the areas. I mean, when I was in Legon, there was a very eloquent SRC leader who said that, I mean, you guys, you will go to learn all about, you know, the Bolshevik Revolution, the Buckingham Palace, but you don't even know the name of the mother of the king of Santo or king of Ghana. Oh my God. That was a wonderful.
It was too alien.
Yeah, it was too alien. So I always remember that what he said. It's true. And we need to understand ourselves. We need to reflect. Our history curriculum needs to reflect our own experiences. Yeah, much of our histories began with when the white man came to Ghana. I mean, I hope it's changing. I'm sure it's changing now. But when I was in school, that was already. It always began with when, you know, the Portuguese arrived in Elmina. Come on, what happened before that? You know, long before that. So we had empires.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my own empire, and besides the Ashanti Empire, we also had a whole Mole de Gomba Empire. Okay. In the northern Ghana. You know, if you have Mosi and Mampu, I mean, which I like to call the Mabia Empire. You know, so we had that. I want to see that in the curriculum. I want to see people learning about each other curricula. I want to see people from Northern Ghana learn about Ashanti and Ghana. I want to see Ghanaians and Everest learning about Northern. That's what we need to become to become a nation, to become a country, to become Africans. Yeah.
Okay, Prof, we'll take a second break.
Okay, thank you.
Come back, we'll
thank you. Yeah.
So the program is still Legends of Our Time. We'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll conclude this interview. Please stay with us. You're still watching Legends of Our Time on GBC News and Ghana Television, and my guest for today is Professor Adams Bodomo, a language expert. Okay, Prof, so tell us about your nuclear family. Who is that lucky woman? And how many children do you have?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as I said at my GAS inaugural lecture, I'm not just only a professor, a fellow of the GAS, but I'm also a family man. You know, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm an uncle, I'm so many things to so many people. So my wife is Mary Bodomo. Actually, she just published a novel, her first novel, about 500 pages, called Infinite Roots. She's been with me all the time, all the places I've been to. I met her here at Legon. I mean, in my secondary school, and then we crystallized things here at Legon. And so I've always gone wherever.
What is she into? What does she do?
She's a teacher.
Okay.
She teaches English. She teaches Akan.
Okay.
She also teaches Hausa. She's a multilingual.
Okay.
And so now she is a multilingual. But I'm the linguist. She has taught Akan, she has taught Hausa, she has taught Dagari, our language. Yeah, she's an English, she's an English major, English literature. She just published a book on that. So we're Bodomo, and we have 3 girls. The first is Muatama, the second is Yelvila, and the third is Nana. And I'm also father to many people, including my brother's children. So Pogda is my brother's daughter. Okay. In our culture, once you are the elder, all the people around you are your children. Okay. So you take care of them. So I'm a father to many, many children, and many people in the village, an uncle, and a mentee to many. In fact, I sometimes consider my graduate children as my children. Okay. So I see someone say, why haven't you done that? I mean, beyond, even after they finish, I still look at them as my children, and I want them to do this and that. So I'm a father, an uncle, a mentee, a mentor to many people.
Okay. Thank you. How long have you been married?
Since 1987. Yeah. Okay. You can do the math for yourself. You can do the math for yourself. Since 1987. Okay. And so yeah. Okay. I'm a family man, and we've enjoyed life throughout. I mean, in our trips to, our sojourns in Norway, in the U.S., in Hong Kong, and now in Vienna, in Austria.
Okay. Yeah. So what really makes Prof happy, if you're not teaching, I'm sure, what would that be?
Oh, you mean pastimes? Yeah. Yeah, pastimes. Oh, I'm an outdoorsy person. Don't forget that I said that I was a cattle header.
That was many years ago.
I was a cattle header, so I like outdoors. I like going out there in the nature. Okay. Cattle headers, cowboy. I don't want to use the word cowboy because it's an American thing. I used to be a cattle header, so you like nature. Okay. So my pastime is hiking. I hike a lot, and I've even run marathons before. Okay. Yeah, I finished marathon, and so I like to see myself as a marathon coach at least for my family. I say, come on, let's get going, let's push ahead. And other people other young people who are near me. I like to take a good drink in a bar. I like to enjoy myself. If there were no COVID, after this we will drink something together. But let's see about that. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I like doing. And I like to read good book. I like to take coffee. I like coffee a lot. Yeah. So it's coffee. Drinking coffee is not a Ghanaian culture, but I have acquired it along the way. If you live in a cold country, you invariably want to have something warm, right? So I acquired that aspect of it.
And what would you describe as your low point?
My low point? When I see that young people are not doing well. Maybe my children, they're not succeeding in school, or it's not that they've ever not succeeded, but when I see problems with young people around me, I feel that's one of my low points. Yeah. And when things are not going well, when I see squalor around me, when I see poverty around me, that's my low point. Okay. When I see that society is not functioning, that's my low point.
From where you come from, poverty is a major issue there. In your own small way, what have you been doing to support your people?
Yeah, I begin by supporting people like this in my family. Okay. I support kids in my family, in my village. I have sometimes from time to time donated books to my school, to my village school. I have plans to also set up a foundation in which I can source funding and help with education as a whole. Okay. But yeah, that's how I've begun small. But yeah, when I probably retire, I'll have more time to do charity work. But for now, as you can see, it's just been crazy. Wow. It's been crazy. So, but yes, I would like to do more for my community, for humanity.
Okay, let me give you this opportunity to address any issue currently in Ghana that you think is worth commenting on. It could be any sector.
If I could stick my neck out, I would point corruption. Okay. Yeah. And last August, I was in Nigeria to give the keynote address on corruption in Africa, in West Africa, by the West African Linguistic Association. So imagine if linguists are meeting and talking about corruption, because it is a big issue. Usually corruption is in the corridors of some lawyers or some NGO or some social group of people, but we felt that as linguists of the West African, as people of the West African Linguistic Association, you couldn't close your eyes to a major issue like corruption. And just write your grammar or do linguistics or something. You have to, corruption is a canker that is eating into the fabric of our society. And I looked at it as a keynote speaker from the perspective of how do we express corruption, corrupt things in our culture, and what are some of the nuggets of gold that we use to argue against corruption. And wow, it was I was surprised at the success of it. A lot of people are now looking at it. Our society has weapons or tools for fighting corruption, and we should go in there and do that. So, you know, if somebody comes to your office and says, put weight on top, what does that mean? Put weight on top. How do you say that in Akan? You know, and what are some of the proverbs, for example, in Akan, in Ewe, in Dagar, that support anti-corruption things? That's one of the things I do. So, to answer your question, if I was to take there are many other issues. There are many other issues. I mean, government, inefficiencies. I want politicians to do better for the country. I'm not happy with Parliament. I'm not happy with whatever is happening. This is the whole lot. I mean, we need to work harder. For Africa to develop, Africa's politicians must work harder than politicians in Europe.
Why do you say so?
Because we have a higher mountain to climb. But we are allowing European politicians and policymakers to work harder than us. If African politicians could work harder and in a more efficient way, and to stamp out things like corruption, then we cannot expect to reach the level of these people and even go beyond them if we allow other politicians to outsmart our African politicians at UN bodies, at the negotiation table, right? So that is what I think. Yeah.
I'm still interested. I want to follow up on corruption. When you mention corruption in the African context, how bad is it?
Very bad, awful.
Like what?
Like like writing a V8. Like writing a V8. Why do we need that? I have lived in an apartment building in Vienna with a parliamentarian who gets out, like me, we all get out together, jump on the tram. I go to my work, he goes to his work. Why does a minister need a V8? Why does a deputy minister need a V8? What do we even need our deputy ministers? The wastage. And I'm very unhappy about that. I mean, a system of government that spends a lot on just administration alone. We cannot go anywhere with that. And I'm not saying this just only because of the current administration, but I say this for all administrations that I've met so far in my life. I mean, I didn't meet Nkrumah, but I think Nkrumah did better than most of these people. I mean, Nkrumah did better than most of them. But since time immemorial, unless we change our attitude, we're just going to borrow money and spend. Borrow money and spend without development. When I went home last time to my village, there was a bridge that was swept away by floods. I went back. I wrote to the regional minister. I wrote to my member of parliament. Up till now, none of them has responded to me. I mean, how much does it take to repair this bridge? A VH full of fuel. Yeah. A week of that will repair this bridge. I believe so. I don't think it takes much to do it. In fact, if somebody were to go there and ask my village people to come out and help, they would do it. But, that's it. I'm not happy about
Prof. Bodomo, my last question.
Yeah.
How do you want to be remembered?
As a man who did what he could, who did his duty, who tried his best, I remember you asked the same question to somebody I admire a lot, Professor Akila Kosoya.
Okay.
Yeah, I admire him a lot. He was my VC. Okay. I love him. I mean, and so he said, something similar. I would like to be remembered as somebody who did his best, who tried to change the world, who tried to change his community, who tried who did his best, so to speak.
Thank you so much, Professor Adams Bodomo.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this interview.
Yeah.
Of course, I've really enjoyed this encounter, very inspirational.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And I've also enjoyed your work a lot because you ask very pertinent questions. You prepare well the background and you ask pertinent. So thank you very much, Gifty, and thank you the team. Thank you everybody who has been listening. Thank you, listeners. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has been Legends of Our Time on GBC News and Ghana Television. My guest for today has been Professor Adams Bodomo, a language expert. My name is Gifty. J will come your way same time, God willing, next week. Until then, bye for now.